Hey there, I'm Jess Byrnes. Welcome to the Jess Byrnes Show. This is where ambition meets alignment. I'm a VA coach, business strategist, and freedom mentor, and I help service-based women unleash their power, scale beyond booked out, and step into their CEO era. Expect real talk, practical strategies, and inspiring conversations with women who've built businesses on their terms. If you're ready to create more freedom, more income, and more impact, this is the space for you. Hello. Welcome to day one of our How to Start Your VA Business Challenge. I am so excited to be here. My name is Jess Byrnes and I am your VA coach. All right, so I've got some notes here so I don't forget anything because I get way too excited and I miss a few things. So let's get this ball rolling. I would love to know where you're from. So if you can pop in the comments whereabouts in the world you are. I know we've had a few international guests at these events, so I would love to know where you're tuning in from. And if you are watching the replay, then I would love you to do a hashtag replay and tell me where you are from. Make sure you play full out if you are catching up, because you still have it's really important when you watch the replay that you still play full out and bring the energy, because in the event that you don't, you won't have the same experience. I've just moved my whole office around and everything's a mess, so I apologize. All right, so who am I? What do I do? Hey, Cass, great to see you. All right, my name is Jess Byrnes, as I have said, and my job, I guess, is to help women just like you start and scale your VA business. Why? Because I did it. Been there, done that, have all the t-shirts. I started my VA business back in 2017 and went full-time and took it seriously probably from end of 2018, early 2019, because I had to move back home with my dad, who got really sick after my mum died, and surprise, I found myself pregnant and with a newborn. And unfortunately, with my dad in and out of hospital and doing all the things, I needed something more flexible. There was no way that I could hold down a 9-to-5. I would have been any employer's worst nightmare. So I stumbled across the VA space, or virtual assistant space, and here we are today, 6 years on and going strong. Hello, Miss Donna. Great to see you. But it doesn't look anything like it did when I first started. So, and I'm going to tap into a lot of this as we go through the training tonight, but I started actually offering spreadsheets and reporting for people. I did not start out doing social media management or coaching and doing the things that I'm doing today. So what I would say is that even if we don't end up working together, I would love to see you come into this space with a really open mind. Now, before I dive into all the details, I want to touch on something that is really, really important to me. And my mission for 2024 is that I'd love to impact 100 women. I would love to work with 100 women this year to kickstart their VA business. That's my goal. I think it's a great round number and it feels really expansive for me. So aligned with that, I am offering a really incredible competition. So if you haven't seen it, go over to the business page, which is Start and Scale Your VA Business. Actually, I might just pop the link down below. If you are catching up on the replay, it is not too late. You can absolutely go over and jump in and get amongst this, because this is the craziest offer that I've ever done. I don't know what I was thinking when I put this post up, but here we are. My team think I'm absolutely nuts. So if you play full out over the next 4 days, if you go to that page and you like the post, you'll see it. I might even pin it if I can. I might not be able to do it right now. No, I can't. Oh, I will do that. So if you go over, you like the post, you share the post and tag us. And I want to know on that post why you want to become a VA. And I'd love for you to tag 3 of your friends that you think would be great VAs as well. And you will go in the draw to win a free spot in our 12-week Freedom Unlocked program, which is 12 weeks valued at $2,500. crazy. And for some bonus entries, I would love for you to share your learnings from each lesson, each replay. I want you to share them in this free group. And so other people are seeing the amazing value that you're getting from these sessions, because they are jam packed. Like, I wish this was around when I started, because it's mind blowing, I have to tell you. So one lucky winner will receive a free spot in our 12-week Freedom Unlocked program, valued at $2,500. And the other prize I'm giving away is a coaching spot via Voxer and Messenger. So you will have me in your back pocket between 9 and 5 every single day, where you can ask all the questions you like. It's pretty phenomenal. Again, I've never done anything like it. I'm so excited. So make sure you pop over there and get the ball rolling on that, which is awesome. All right, so the reason that you're all here tonight, and what we're here to actually talk about, now that I can catch my breath, is how to know what to offer as a VA. Let me start by saying what not to do, because it actually really grinds my gears. What I would love for you not to do is pick a task from a list that you think is really easy. Oh, I could do email management. Let me do that. Oh, I could, go through somebody's calendar and make sure that all their appointments are there. That's easy. And particularly if you are so highly trained in other areas, or you have a passion for something else. I'm going to touch on this in a minute, but I see this all the time. Really, like probably most recently, I had an incredible call with a lady in her free VA blueprint. And she said, oh yeah, I'm doing admin, like general admin. I said, oh, okay, but what's your background? She said, oh, I'm a really high up executive for government, and I've worked really hard to get to this point. I said, oh, okay, and you want to go back to doing admin? She said, well, not really, but that's what I was told to do. So I am here to give you full permission not to do that. Do not go backwards in going forwards. Do not go backwards in going forwards. Do something that you love, right? And this is where I'm going to kick things off. So there's 4 areas that I like to touch on in this space. So I can't see, I need to get my glasses, but I don't know where they are. There's 4 things to take into consideration when you're working out what to offer as your service or what to include in your packages. The first one is your personality and your passion, like I touched on. So for me, I'll share a little story, and I started, like I said, offering spreadsheets for people. So my business name initially was called Sprinkle. It was not called Sprinkle. It was called Simple Spreadsheets. It was a mouthful. It was really hard to say, as you can tell. Simple Spreadsheets is the name of that business. And I would go and either pull data, pull reports, create pretty spreadsheets with a dashboard on them, because I love Excel. And I'm a firm believer that there are 2 types of people in this world. There's the people that love Excel, and there's people that hate Excel. That's just how I see the world. It's very black and white for me. And so as a lover of Excel, I would help the people that hate Excel. And so that's where my passion lied. That's where I really allowed my personality to shine through in what I was offering. Does this make sense? If this makes sense, let me know in the comments. What can you think of that you are passionate about, or you could add your personality to, that you could offer as a service as a VA? That's the first question I want to ask you. The other thing I started to do, now that I think about it, funnily enough, is I started running a networking group. Now, I didn't even know what networking was, and I cover more about, networking and networking for your business in the Booked Out Boardroom. But I actually started a networking group and utilized social media to grow the group from like 90 women to 500 women in my local area. And we used to hold monthly networking meetings. Now, for some people to stand up in front of a room of 30 plus people, they'd rather stick a pen in their eye. But for me, I really thrive and I love all that sort of stuff. So that really shone through my personality and what I've been able to achieve in my last 6 years as a VA. So first point, personality and passion. If you cannot stand the thought of a spreadsheet, don't offer that as a service. I know it sounds really straightforward, but I need to say it. All right, number 2 is your experience. So the reason I knew that I could help people with spreadsheets is because in my old corporate job, people used to come to me and ask for my help with spreadsheets all the time. So, hey Jess, this filter's not working, or the formatting, conditional formatting isn't working, the colors aren't changing, whatever it was, I would get asked all the time. And I know for fun, I would sit and watch videos on Excel and formulas and all the things. Crazy, right? But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But that's how I knew that I was going to be good at it, because people would ask for my help. And that's kind of how I stumbled into the social media management side of things, is that I've always really been a creative writer. I would do poetry as a young lady, and I had so much fun doing that. And so when it came around to writing content for other people, people started saying, oh gosh, that was really good. I loved what you wrote about that. I'd love for you to come do that for my business. Very similar to spreadsheets. Once I could showcase what I did, and I did a couple of freebies, there's nothing wrong with that, just to get my portfolio created and get things out there. Once I could show my experience, it was a lot easier to know what I wanted to offer. So experience is a really important part. So we've covered your personality and passion, and we've covered your experience. The third thing is your perspective and your beliefs. This is really, really, really important. Don't do anything that you are not comfortable with. And I don't mean comfortable in, the tasks that you're completing. You can learn almost anything, right? I mean your perspective and beliefs on the world. So, leaning on the keyboard here. I do crazy, clumsy things like that all the time. When I talk about perspective and beliefs, I mean things like, maybe it's your religion that you are passionate about. There are faith-based VAs out there that wholly and solely work with their particular faith, right? If you wholeheartedly believe in a certain modality or a certain system, then you can work with people in that space. If you don't like to swear, you can work with people that don't swear. And I know this sounds probably, again, something that you're like, well, that makes sense. But you'd be very, very surprised when you actually are out in the world and you are looking to find your first client. It's easy to break these boundaries just for the sake of having these clients, right? So if you don't want to work, over a different hours, different time frame, don't do it. For me, my perspective was that once my daughter had gone to sleep at 10 p.m. after her last feed, I would then work with the UK until 2 a.m. She would get up, she would have a middle of the night feed, and then I would go to bed. That's how I built my business for the first 3 to 6 months. That was my belief, that they were the times that I was able to work, while during the day I was caring for my daughter and my dad. Fast forward 12 months later and I had a 6-figure VA business. Completely replaced my income from my corporate job, and in my second year I doubled my income. And I realized what was possible. I'm getting really emotional. I realized what was possible in this space, and I knew that I needed to help other people do this. So perspectives and beliefs, really, really important. Boundaries, whatever you want to call it. That plays a really, really important part. And your skills, right? Makes sense? But the things that you know that you're good at, the things that you know. Some people are proficient and competent in Excel and even Microsoft as a whole. Maybe that is your space. Maybe emails are your jam. Awesome. It doesn't mean that you can't build your skills. Things like graphic design in Canva. Absolutely, you can learn those things. That can become a skill for you. However, it's a really great place to start if you already have a skill that you want to dip your toe in. Like I said, for me, it was formulas, spreadsheets. That was where I started. However, I developed so many skills along the way. I self-taught along the way. I learned Canva. I learned how to build my own website. I learned how to network. I learned all these things that I just didn't even know about. It's like a whole nother world, another language. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that to be really, really, really clear. Hello, darling. Oh, I tagged you, trying to get you over here. We'll be going live in the group all week. So the 4 things to take into consideration, and I want you to go back, Sheree, and watch the replay for the first however long we've been here. But so we're looking at personality and passion, your experience, your perspective, beliefs and boundaries, and your skills. They are the 4 things that you need to play with and to nut out in the very beginning of starting your VA business. If you start in there, you cannot lose. I promise you. All right, so these are, I guess, the key things. I don't want to put too much information into these training sessions because they can become really overwhelming, right? But there are a couple of questions that I get asked all the time around this. One of them being, do I need a formal qualification to be a virtual assistant? For the most part, no. Oh, thanks, Cass. I'll see you soon. For the most part, no, unless you want to be a bookkeeper, then there are formal qualifications that you need to play around, or you need to go and get, and it is quite extensive. If you are, which I didn't know this, I only learned this recently because one of the girls in the VA course, she is a bookkeeper. There's really strict rules, and it's really interesting because you can go into a business if you're an employee and do payroll and all that sort of stuff under their license, but as soon as you come out to be a contractor, you can't do that. So if you want to do bookkeeping things, yes, you need to go and do a formal qualification. However, things like admin, marketing, anything in that space, working with systems, that's a really popular one for a VA, then no, you do not need a formal qualification. So I've heard a lot of ladies come into my world who are talking about, doing a certificate for in business admin. If you already have it, great. If you're already enrolled, no problem. But if you are thinking about starting your VA business and you don't have those qualifications yet, do not let that hold you back. I did a diploma in business management. It was 15 years ago. I actually looked at it yesterday. I can't believe it was so long ago. And it's funny because now that I actually have my own business, I think, oh, that stuff's kind of relevant. 15 years ago when I wanted to move into the management space, it wasn't at all. Like, I just didn't even know how it gelled. Whole other story for another day. And what do I need to get started? So I have a checklist around this that is really helpful in the group under the guide section. So if you need it, pop checklist in the comments and I'll make sure that I get that to you. But ultimately, like ABN, domain name, they're the key things to get you started, I would say. 2 key things to make things happen. And another thing that I will just touch on really, really quickly before we jump off is the other thing that I get asked all the time is, what do I name my business? And I did a whole live on this as well. But naming your business, personally, I wish I went with my name from the very beginning. So as I said, it started as simple spreadsheets. By the time that I changed my mind and went in a whole other direction, I should have just had it as my name to begin with. That's my personal opinion. You can change your name at any time, but the problem I had, or the challenge I faced, I should say, is that I had to rebuild my reputation and my business under a new name. Even though it was my personal name, it's still, from a marketing perspective, it was challenging. Awesome. And the last thing I want to do is invite you to book a free VA blueprint call. So if you haven't yet, please do so. I'll pop that in the comments. I would love to connect with you, understand a bit more about you. I will be back here live tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We'll be talking all things pricing. Then we're going to talk on, what day will it be? Thursday, about how to find your first client, which is so exciting. It's one of my favorite trainings. And then on Friday, we're going to do a Q&A where we will be we'll be jumping on Zoom. So thank you so much for tuning in. Super quick 20-minute training, bite size, how I love them. I hope you have a lovely night. See you soon. Bye. Anyway, that's fine. We'll just kick things off anyway. Hello there. My name is Jessica Byrnes, or Jess. Jessica is usually when I'm in trouble. And I am your 6-figure VA coach. So I started my VA business in 2017, officially kicked off in 2019 full-time whilst I looked after my dad and my newborn. But I covered a lot of that yesterday. So if you missed yesterday's recording, let me know and I will make sure that that comes your way. It's still not letting me. Let me just very, very quickly. I just want to make sure I'm live too. That's always helpful. Make sure it's all working. All right, I can see. Hey, Cherie, how are you? Sherry, I don't know which one it is because we haven't spoken yet. Hey, Donna. There we go. Right, now it is letting me play. Perfect. All right, now I can kick off. I cannot see your comments on this screen though, so let me just pop this over here. See what I mean? Technology. Great, right? Awesome. So yesterday we covered what to offer as a VA. And I loved that call last night. I had so much fun. But today we are covering all things how to price your services. Sorry, someone else is commenting, all the things happening. Perfect. All right, we're kicking off. So, how to price your services as a VA. I would love to know where you're from. I would love you to let me know if you're watching the replay. And if you are watching the replay, please play full out as well. I know I said this yesterday, but it's really, really important because a lot of people just come and watch and I miss out. Whereas if you actually come and you play and you comment and you do all the things, I will come back to you and it was like you were here live with me. It's really, really important. Awesome. All right. So how to price your services as a VA. So there's a few things to consider. I've got some notes here again, but I want to tell you what I did, the mistake I made, right? So starting my VA business way back when, and I was in a place of desperation. I really needed money, needed to pay my bills. We had just been evicted from our place in Sydney, moved back home to look after my dad. It all the divine timing happened, but the bank was about to take my car. There's a whole range of things going on. It was a very, very stressful time. And I look back and I go, man, I don't even know how I handled that, but I did. And to make sure that I had money coming in, I started charging $15 an hour. Now, of course, most people, jumped onto that because it's cheap. I actually would have earned more working at McDonald's or Coles or Kmart or somewhere like that in retail than what I was. However, I needed the freedom and the flexibility in my job that I could work from home, I could look after my daughter, I could set my own hours. So what I would say is do not start at $15 an hour. Perfect. Cool. Awesome. Got some comments coming in, which is great. Do not start at $15 an hour. Now, technically we can't tell you what to set your price as because everyone should be different for everyone, right? But what I'm going to say is don't start there. Awesome. So if you already have a VA business, I'd love to know how you price. And the reason I ask this is because I'm going to go through this in a second with you. So funnily enough, there were 4 things that I wrote down about considering your pricing, and this will be a very, very quick training today. So the first thing is what services you're offering. And I have this conversation all the time. In the VA blueprint, we talk about, what you want to do, what it looks like. So when we talk about pricing and the services you're offering, things are a bit more, I want to say low value, not to take away from the tasks that you're doing, but it can make a difference, right? So if it's something like transcription or things like just general admin. Sorry, I just thought of a question. I get asked about this all the time, so I'm just writing this down. So a lower value task. So it might be something that is just general admin. You might play in that space for like $25, $30 an hour versus something a bit more specialized, such as marketing, content creation, system creation, automation. You will be looking at a higher hourly rate. So looking at the services that you offer is really, really important. The market price of what things are going for. So like a car, go and have a look at what other people are charging. Shop around, if you will. Now, part of Freedom Unlocked, we go through a whole competitor analysis. This is really, really important part of the process to make sure that you know where you're up to, right? You want to know where things are at in the market. Everyone else is charging $40 an hour and then you come in at $80 an hour, right? Like you just set yourself up to fail. And I say that with the utmost respect. So we want to make sure that we check in with the rest of the market and do a competitor analysis. My Siri's about to go off. Now my light's flickering. I don't know what is going on in here tonight. There's something crazy happening. Okay, so point 1, what services you're offering. Point 2, the market price, what's going on around you. Point 3 is what you need to earn. Okay, I've just thought of something else too. I get really excited here. Alrighty, so what do you need to earn? So when I say this, I want you to get a pen and paper, and if you're watching the replay, pause it, go and do that and come back, right? Because this is really important. We want to do some math, right? So we want to work out how many hours a week or a month, monthly is usually easier, how many hours a month do you want to work versus what you want to earn. So let's say you want to earn $10,000 a month and you want to do 20 hours a week, so 80 hours a month. Your hourly rate would sit somewhere around that $125 an hour mark. So then you know, right, I need to charge either this amount or be able to bring in this much money over the 20 hours that I'm working. Sorry, my nose is itchy. Does that make sense? Give me a yes in the comments if that makes sense. It's actually a really, really, really valuable exercise to do. It sounds really basic, but it's something I want you to really take into consideration. Cool. Then, so for $125 an hour, for a lot of people, they will balk at that. They'll be like, whoa, like that's a lot. Versus if you say to someone, okay, I'm going to do XYZ for you and it will be $500 an hour. So for me, for example, I used to do content, 12 posts, a report with graphics every month for $500. That's it. So it worked out, I can write content pretty quick. So it was about 5 hours worth of work. So effectively I was earning $100 an hour. Which brings me to my next point around packaging and hourly. You should not be punished for working fast. So initially you might want to start out at an hourly rate just to get the feelers out there, work out your process, see what it looks like. But then I would encourage you to look at packages and move that way, because there's a lot of pros and cons around it. But the cons with charging an hourly rate, it can cause a lot of friction in a relationship with a client. It can cause micromanaging, like, oh, that would only take me half an hour. Why did it take you an hour, for example? All sorts of different things can come up with an hourly rate, especially if someone's in a really stressed state and they've only just started outsourcing. It can play a really big part. So I'd highly recommend looking at packages. If you're not sure, we also cover that in Freedom Unlocked. So hourly rate versus packaging. And the final point I want to make on this is who you want to work for can play a really big role in your pricing. So let's say you want to work with hospitality, for example. We'll play in this space. Hospitality traditionally have lower rates, right? Even retail. Hospitality, retail have a lower rate of pay versus, say, a doctor or a psychologist or a marketing agency or coaches, for example. So when you work with the wedding industry, hospitality, retail, naturally, because they make less, they will pay less. Versus the flip side of the coin of marketing agencies, coaches, doctors, psychologists, allied health, NDIS, anything in that space where there's more profit margin and they charge more, then of course you can charge more. And the thing that I always look at, this is a lot of gold actually, and I'm giving away too much, but I'm going to do it anyway. The thing that I always look at is how much time it saves that person. So let's say a tradie that may charge $200 an hour, for example, a plumber. Let's say a plumber, sparky, someone like that, $200 an hour because it's the easier number. And it takes them 10 hours a month to do content. 10 hours they're taking away from admin, 10 hours they're away from their family, 10 hours they just don't get downtime. They miss out on things, they're working weekends, whatever that looks like, right? So there's a psychological pain, but there's a financial pain of $2,000 a month that they are spending because they're 10 hours of their billable time is spent doing content, right? So when I come to them and I say, look, I understand this is taking this much time, you're missing out on these things, it's worth about $2,000 a month to you, but I'm happy to take it over and do it for you for $500 a month. How does that sound? It's a no-brainer, right? So I know I explained that really, really quickly. And I promise you it makes sense in my head. If it makes sense, let me know. But this is where we can start to play with the numbers that you can go to them and say, yep, great. It's going to be $1,000 for this package for this particular person, because you're saving them $1,000 rather than charging them $1,000. Cool. All right. So like I did yesterday, I'm going to invite you to book a VA blueprint call. They are free of charge, 45 minutes, where we will map out and tailor your VA journey. I'm gonna pop that in the comments. Oh, I don't know what's going on with my nose. It's really itchy. Something went wrong. Perfect. It's always helpful. I didn't think this browser was working. There we go. Now it's there twice. I will go back and fix that. The final thing that I wanted to touch on is the topic of offshore VAs, right? I hear this a lot, and I have people freak out about offshore VAs and even just competition, like other virtual assistants in general. My take, yeah, it makes sense, right? Awesome, perfect. Now I can see your comments. Lovely. Um, Offshore VAs, yes, they are less of an hourly rate. Again, they may be doing less value tasks. Not to take away from the work that they do. I have an offshore VA. She's fabulous. She helps me with my group. She helps with all sorts of stuff. However, I also have Australian VAs because of the communication, the language barrier. For me, at times, I need to be able to delegate really, really fast because I have two companies, which is another really great point around Freedom Unlocked, that if you are looking to play or you want to experiment and you want some work experience, I can give that to you through either one of my companies, which I digress. So when people say to me, do you think offshore VAs are competition? No, they're not. Generally, no, because you will find people, a bit like yesterday I was saying, there's people that love Excel and there's people that hate Excel. There's people that will love offshore VAs and there are people that do not love offshore VAs, and they can take a lot of training. So I'm really lucky that my VAs and I have worked together for a long time, like over a year, and it's very clear and concise around what their role is, what they want to do. We go through all the SOPs. We get standard operating procedures. We get really, really, really clear on what their role is every single day, opposed to bringing someone in to figure it out, because it doesn't always work that way. And that's no disrespect to them. That's just the way the culture is. However, I will say Filipino VAs always aim to please. They do a fabulous job most of the time. You just need to make sure that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. As far as other virtual assistants go, they have been hands down my biggest source of referrals. So other virtual assistants, where people will think of them as competition, absolutely not. They become your biggest source of referrals. And the reason being that if I'm doing social media, for example, and someone comes to me wanting transcription or general admin or email marketing, it's not a space that I play in. So I will happily refer those on. So I would really encourage you, from a mindset perspective, to not see it as competition, but if you see it as community and camaraderie, it will change the game for you, and you will find the most incredible referrals and clients in that space, I promise you. Now, not everyone shares that mindset, so be mindful of that. However, I feel that the sooner you adapt that, the easier it is, right? So, awesome. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. So, things to consider: what services you're offering, what else is going on in the market, doing a competitor analysis. What do you need to earn? So working out those numbers are really, really important, because it may not be as hard as you think. Hourly rate versus packaging, and who are you working for? The 5 things that I would consider when deciding how to price your services. If you have any questions, pop them below. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I will see you very soon. Bye. Thank you for joining me on the Jess Byrnes Show. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And I'd love to invite you to come and hang out in my free Facebook community for service-based women stepping into their CEO energy. Please feel free also to leave a review, as this will help other amazing women just like you find us on your preferred podcast channel. Until next time, stay empowered and totally unleashed.